Hey guys, Mark Holthe here, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher. I am pretty stoked to be doing this one today. Why? Because as you can see, those awful, horrible braces are gone, and now I can talk freely without the inside of my mouth being shredded to pieces. So, it's not quite perfect because I've got a little retainer that I'm wearing right now because my little tooth that is going to be implanted is not quite ready. But I'll take this any day over those awful, awful braces. So, welcome to the Express Entry Law private Facebook group, and this is our weekly EE live Q&A. I am your host, Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher. I am super happy to have the opportunity to answer your questions today about Express Entry. It's been a pretty rough little week here for me in our office. We've had a little bit of change internally, and it's resulted in some pretty late nights, including about 3 a.m. I think I went to bed last night. So if I'm not speaking coherently or answering the questions that you guys pose, as clearly and crisply as I usually do, understand it's because I'm operating on about 3 hours sleep last night. And I'd like to say that that was just a rarity, but the reality is last week I had a 3 o'clock and a 2 o'clock in the morning as well. So sleep deprivation is not something that I would recommend for all of you. All right, people are piling in now as they're starting to see this EE Live Q&A on their timeline. Post your comment, folks. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I'm just loading up all of the email questions that came in from the listeners, which I will be addressing first, as always. And there's some tough questions here, guys. Like, there's some really tough questions. So I will do my best to answer. Some of them I can't quite answer fully, but I'll show you where you can go to get further information. And then some of them I'm actually going to take back and reach out to Ottawa and through my immigration representative email and see if I can seek clarification on them. And that's the beauty of these EE Live Q&As. You guys ask awesome questions. We're not talking about the fluff that anyone can read on the IRCC website. We're talking about questions that are really tricky, really difficult. And you listeners really brought it today. So we are going to have a lot of fun. All right, I'm going to go to my Express Entry Law Facebook page right now and see if I can find my live video. I'm going to listen to the audio, see how it sounds here. I think we're probably okay. We'll see. We will see here. And I think everybody can probably listen and hear. So we've got Candace from Trinidad. Hi, Candace. We've got Hertz from Dubai. Afalabi is already asking me questions. So those of you who are posting questions in the comment section already, hold off because I save time for that at the end of the EE Live Q&A. And right now I will be focusing on these ones. But in the interim, just give me 1 second here. I am just trying to figure out why I cannot hear my own audio here. Let's see. Probably because I turned down the volume or something. Anyways, I'll let you guys continue to connect, and I'm assuming that all of you guys can hear me because you're responding just fine. But for whatever reason, I have my audio that I can't hear myself, and I just want to double check and make sure. So output, iMic USB, and there we go. Yep, it's working just fine. Awesome, awesome. All right, so I'm going to turn my audio down so that you guys don't have to listen to me talking to myself. All right, couple things as we get started here. We are into full December mode, which in Canada and maybe many other countries in the world, we're preparing for Christmas, which is one of my favorite times of the year. And there are tons of opportunities that we have here to just forget about ourselves for a little bit and to think about those in need, those around us. And I'm not sure if you guys celebrate Christmas the same way that we do here in Canada, but it's an opportunity to really just think about how we can help our neighbor, help those that are less fortunate. And to a large extent, I guess that's the real motto and the history behind the creation of this Express Entry Law private Facebook group. It was a way for me to give back on a grand scale. So Yes, our group is massive, and we're just about at 121,000 people now. I think we're about maybe 5 subscribers to the point where we reach 121. And many of you guys will probably see that the group hasn't had its same skyrocketing increase. And one of the reasons for that is because I have made it very strict now in terms of people answering the questions. And if a person does not take the time to actually answer the questions that are asked, why they want to join the group, and things like that, I simply don't add them. They get declined. And so only people who actually answer the questions. And it serves multiple purposes. One is only people who are serious are we adding to the group, and we're keeping the group free of spammers and other trolls that are just looking to post junk. So although we're massive, the goal is to keep it safe, secure, and a really, really good source of information for all of you guys. So thank you for all being a part of this. Thank you for being here today. All right, while we're doing it right now, let's jump in and let's just see here. We've already got people posting questions, so I'm just going to remind you guys again, in the comment section, don't start posting them until I let you know. And then we'll be in a much better position to be able to answer them in a fair and methodical way. All right. Okay. Nikolai says hi from the Philippines. Abdi is from Slave Lake. Hi, Abdi. How are you, my friend? Saifal is Kenya. Great to connect with you. So there's just an awesome group of people that are all tuned in here. Okay, let's start with the first question, all right? And we'll hit this one right off the start. And like I said, these questions are awesome. They are really good. Let me get a pen. Wow. See, as you guys can see, this is a super high tech performance. That's basically me floundering around trying to answer questions with no technical support. So anyone who is a professional videographer or knows how to produce really good Facebook Live videos, let me know, because it might be nice to actually up the game a little bit now that so many people are watching these. But at this stage, it's just me sitting in front of my computer talking to you. And I know you guys have been very patient, and some of you guys probably get a kick out of it. You probably think it's pretty funny watching this immigration lawyer trying to do these. But hey, at the end of the day, I never ever pretended that I was this person who was just loaded with money who would be able to produce these high performance, these really high quality videos. But the form may not be perfect, but the substance is awesome. And that is what makes these videos so cool. Okay. I'm going to start right off the bat right here at the 8-minute mark with my good friend Envis. And if you guys want to go and see Envis's video testimonial that he gave me on the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide, you guys can just search through the postings that I did on the group, and you should be able to find, or look in the video section, you should be able to find Envis. And so he was kind enough, he's a subscriber to the guide, but he had another good question that he wanted me to ask today. And just like anyone, when I get a good question, I want to share it with everyone. So Envis says, thank you for your amazing Q&A sessions. It is a pleasure and a great help for me to watch them. I have a question regarding notifying IRCC via web form through an inquiry about change of address and country of residence after eAPR. Does IRCC give you a response or confirmation after you report the change? If yes, how long does it take for them to reply? In my case, it has already been 45 days without a response. Envis, this is one of the most frustrating aspects of this whole process. I swear. There is no timeline. Generally speaking, I've seen responses come back in as little as a few days, which is totally crazy, totally off the charts, unusual. But for a vast majority of people, having it past 45 days is not unusual if you're uploading documents or if you're trying to provide additional information. When it comes time to updating your address, I'll be honest, other than that notification that you get instantly when you submit it that says, thank you for submitting your inquiry, you may not even received anything. And so what I would do is I would go into your portal And I'm just trying to think the best ways of trying to figure out what your address is. There are sections where you can track the status of your application. And I know within Express Entry, it's a little bit different than some of the other ones. But the reality is when you update your address, there is no guarantee they're even going to respond to you. So understand with Express Entry, it's not a big deal. It really isn't. All communication is going to come through your email address. And so if you change your address and you notify them, then you're good. You've got your confirmation. You know that you have sent it and you've done your part. Then what happens is when you're in a different location and you get the email notification, then at that stage, if they give you instructions on where to submit your application and you notice they haven't updated your address, then you can confirm all of that with them at the time in which you're actually following through with the passport request. And you can be in different countries and change the VAC or the Visa Application Center where you're actually going to be submitting your passport. There is flexibility with that. Okay? Great question, Envis. Thank you, my friend. I'm so appreciative of that. Okay. This one here, starting at the 11-minute mark, is a tricky one. And I actually don't have an answer for this. I've got my own guess and I have my own basic explanation that I give people, but let me just read this for you. And this one is from Deepika, and he says, I'm an Indian citizen. I have an Indian passport. I've applied through Express Entry. He has his WES evaluation, and the WES evaluation says that the equivalency is a bachelor's degree of 4 years and postgraduate diploma 1 semester. I've actually completed my postgrad certificate from New Zealand. I've attached the documents for your reference. I'm not going to bring those up. My postgraduate certificate was for 6 months. While adding the qualification in the EE profile, the course duration of 0.5 years is not available, but I am able to add the starting and end date of my degree. IQAS states that a degree of 0.5 years can be added. Please clarify whether I can claim points for my postgraduate certificate. If you are helping a lot of people with these processes, thanks a lot. Oh, you are helping a lot of people with these processes. Thanks a lot for your great work. Deepika, this is one of those questions where I don't actually have an answer for you. I'm going to have to take this one back and do a little research and then bring it up and share it with you guys at a later stage. But one thing I do know is that generally speaking, you obviously need to have your credential completed. Now, anecdotally, what I have heard is that they do want to see that it's a year certificate and not just 6 months. But there is no clear confirmation of that. When I go to the, and I've just pulled it up here on my other computer, but when I go to the ministerial instructions for Express Entry, what it is saying, and just give me a second. Okay, so as you guys look, and you know what, I could pull this up, but I'm not going to waste time showing you guys this. But in the ministerial instructions for Express Entry, which is basically the regulations that dictate how the law is, how Express Entry is supposed to be administered, you get 128 points if you have 2 or more post-secondary program credentials, and at least one of them has been issued for a period of at least 3 years. So what you have to understand is that in the regulations, the ministerial instructions, it doesn't say that that second credential has to be for a minimum of 1 year. It only indicates that it has to be completed. And that's something that you've indicated, although it was only 6 months. And so the short answer is, I don't know. The long answer, I'll have to come back to you on that one. So for Deepika, your question, I'm actually going to take this one back. I'm not going to be able to answer it. But generally speaking, for me, in similar situations, I usually don't advise my clients that a half year is good enough. And the reason is because, for the exact reason that you've indicated, if they accepted something less than a year, then they would have probably given that option to be able to choose a time period less than a year for a credential. So I've always taken the position that it has to be 1 year. I can't speak for what ICAS states because they are not Canadian Immigration. They're an ECA agency. So I don't trust or follow what they say without finding support from IRCC. So I'm going to ask this question, and then I will come back, and I will also send you a direct email, Deepika, as well as I will be reaching out to all of you guys to share the answer to that one. So that was a good one. I've got a little bit of a sore throat. I think it's because I'm getting run down. So I'm just drinking a little bit of water to stay connected here. Okay, next question says, this is from Manar, and that's at the 15:30 mark. Manar says, we got an ITA and we've submitted our permanent resident application in CIC. We chose non-accompanying spouse in our application. Now circumstances have changed and I'd like to add my husband. Can I? All right, so just to put you guys into context here, I'm assuming that Manar listed her spouse as non-accompanying, was assessed through the comprehensive ranking system as an individual, and the points were awarded accordingly. Now, after getting having submitted the eAPR but not having finalized permanent residence, Manar now wants to change and add her spouse on. And so she says, regarding my status, recently I was asked to do my biometrics by CIC. So can I change to spouse is accompanying without subjecting my application to decline, noting that our score together is above the cutoff at the time of ITA? So you hit this one right on the head, Manar. The reality is, if the source for this information, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to open this up and I'm going to share my screen with you guys. The source is our lovely A11.2, and then I'll type in IRCC. This should get us to the policy. So when I click on this one and I open this up, you will see that there's an explanation of how IRCC treats applications when there's a change of circumstance declared right here in the eAPR after. So that's different than what was originally put into the profile. So I'm not going to go into all the details. Essentially, how it works is, if when you're submitting your eAPR, the changes that you're requesting to be made do not affect the minimum entry criteria, so this is MECs, so your qualifications do not fall below the MECs, and you, when they're assessing your comprehensive ranking system score, your points do not drop below the level in which you were awarded that ITA in the first place. So if you go down here, there's a requirement to maintain your CRS score. That's great. There's an exception, as we'll also see here, for age. So if you have a birthday after you get your ITA, your birth date is actually locked in on the date that you got your ITA, not eAPR. So that's a little bonus little tip. But scrolling down here farther, of course, they don't like misrepresentation. Changes in circumstances declared after an EPR has been submitted. So this is exactly when a person gets married, or there's some circumstance where a person has a child. But what you're asking is a circumstance where you listed the spouse originally as non-accompanying, but after you want to add them on. Well, there was a time when there was a little bit of a gap there, and individuals could technically list their spouse as non-accompanying, get their ITA, and then after submitting their eAPR, add the spouse on. And I did that for some clients. But IRCC sent me a specific email back saying, Mark, you can't do this anymore. Our policy now has changed. And so you have to understand now, if you, you can see right here at the bottom, if an applicant marries before they submit their eAPR, but informs IRCC of the marriage only after they submit their eAPR, the marriage right here can be taken into account as part of the section A11.2 assessment. And basically what that means is that's your eligibility for the program, as well as the comprehensive ranking system score, which will then be based on your and your spouse's comprehensive ranking system. So 40 of your points will be attributed to your spouse. Now, with that being said, if we go back to the original question that that was asked here by Manar, she indicated, at least hinted, that their score together is above the cutoff at the time of the ITA. So technically speaking then, based on, if we flip back here, based on what this explanation says from IRCC, you can add that spouse on, you can change your mind, but the marriage and those points will then be reassessed. So ultimately, if you do not submit an ECA for your spouse, if you do not submit IELTS scores, and there's no Canadian work experience, then you're going to lose 40 points. But when you're adding your spouse, you're definitely going to want to include their educational credential assessment and their IELTS scores or CELPIP, whichever test they took, to try to get as many points as you can. And I assume that you're outside of Canada probably, but if you're inside of Canada, then it's reference letters for Canadian work experience. Spouses and foreign work experience is a complete waste of time because you get no points for them. So that is an awesome little explanation, and I'm quite proud of that one. that clarifies something that in the early days, if you watch some of my earlier videos, I always used to say, well, this is a gap. There's an opportunity here. And if people are being prejudiced because they're married, then they can list their spouse as non-accompanying and then add them after. And then that loophole closed. So you cannot do that anymore unless you're prepared to have your spouse actually assessed. So there you go. Great question. All right. Next question is from Manish. And Manish says, and I'll put this down here. Thank you for your expert advice and help. Thank you. Although the Law Society of Alberta says that I cannot hold myself out as an expert, unlike all of my lovely consultant friends all over the world who say they are God's gift to immigration and are phenomenal, knowledgeable experts, and all of you out there who have done your own application who now assume you are an expert as well, and everybody praises you as being the expert. I'll leave all that aside, but I, as a Canadian immigration lawyer who have pretty much devoted my life to immigration, I can't hold out that I'm an expert. So thank you for referring to me as providing expert advice, and I sure hope I do that. But that's my professional code of conduct, because you have no way of telling why I am somehow an expert over everyone else. And that's why, lawyers operate on a different standard than everyone else. Okay, my query is regarding reference letters. Okay, usually when I get reference letter questions, I don't usually spend a lot of time answering them because they tend to be very specific. Here's my knock code. Here's my duties. Did I choose the right one? And there's lots of resources out there, and I would actually encourage you guys to Google if you're looking for help. Let's see. We'll go Mark. I can't remember what I call this one. Let's see here. We'll call it, my keyboard is not wanting to work as well here. What is going on? Let's try this again. Okay, there we go. So Mark Holthe, let's see, podcast, reference letters. I think it's a secret to drafting, how to draft a reference letter that works. Okay, that works. So this is a good source that can give you information on how to do that. I can't remember when I last updated it, but this is a pretty fun one. So that also is a resource that you awesome folks out there can use. And I'll just stick that into this, the comment section. And lots of times you guys will, those of you who've watched this for quite a while have seen this before. But going back to the question here, so it's regarding reference letters. I'm planning to get one from one of my past employers, and then the knock code, whatever, 2282. I worked in my past org as an analyst for 1.5 years. However, later I got promoted to my designation, and it was changed. But I just want to mention here, even after this change in designation, my main duties and responsibilities remained all the same. I did the same task in the same team. So in a nutshell, now my query is, would it be fine if I get a reference letter from my employer stating this person held designation of analyst, considering this is mentioned as one of the titles related to my knock? My employer has no problem in stating that on the reference letter. Well, this one is easy, Manish. If you go to the completeness check, which is this one here, and I'm going to open up my page and share it with you guys again. And I'm going to search for, I opened up a new page by accident. So if I go back here, and then I go find, and then I'm going to go to work there. So when you're listing your work experience here, you will see that they say that you should provide a reference letter or experience letter from the employer, which is on their letterhead, blah, 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 blah. It should indicate all positions held while employed at the company. And so because of that, I always advise my clients to just break it out and list it. Ultimately, if the duties have not changed substantially, then I list it regardless. And if the duties are basically duplicated, then I say that in the letter. So basically what I say is, in this case, that Manish worked as an analyst, and then their position changed after a year and a half. And when that date changed to this title, however, both positions encompass the following job duties. And then I would lay them out once. And so there's always a way to do it. You don't need to be cute. You don't need to try and, fudge things. You can be 100% honest and explain. And that's what I would do for that. Okay, Manish, I would include it, both titles, and then collectively say that both of these titles are all the same job description, which is set out below. Awesome. Okay, this one's from Pascal. And Pascal says, and actually let me make sure I keep track of this time here. Okay. All right. So he says, and I think this is Pascal. He says, if I was a resident in the UAE for 4 years, but during this time I was traveling outside the country every 3 to 4 months, never being 6 months in a row, should I have to issue a police clearance? So if you look at this, Pascal, I'm getting the names confused. On the surface, if you follow the instructions from IRCC, and today I just feel like going back and letting IRCC do the talking. So if we go back to police certificates, right here. Okay, and so I'm just going to find, there it is. You will see that the expectation is that for countries where you no longer reside, the police certificate must be issued after the last time the applicant stayed in that country for 6 months or more in a row. And so from a technical standpoint, some people may look at that and say, well, no, you don't need to provide a police certificate from there. But you guys have to understand that if I was an officer and I saw that you lived there for that length of time, even though it didn't necessarily meet this requirement, more than likely I would go and I would actually ask you to get it. You can see here the officer can exercise discretion whether police certificates that do not fall within standard IRC parameters may still be required to process the application. So an officer always has the ability, and I'll be honest, if you lived in that country for 4 years, the UAE, and knowing that it's not rocket science and not difficult to get it, I would just get it. And I would just submit it. Why waste time for the expense and the hassle, to have them come back and then ask you to, to provide something that, maybe you didn't technically need to provide? I would do it. That's what I would. So, but hey, that's me. I'm super conservative. And after we finish these questions, I'll share an experience that happened to me recently that has just really, really, frustrated me isn't the right word. It's more like embarrassment or disappointment or just overall just humbling, I guess is the best way to describe it. But I'll share that. So you guys stay tuned and I'll share this. This is Mark opening up his world to all of you guys. I'll share what happened to me and one of my clients just recently. And she is my absolute favorite client who has been with me all through the beginning. But even bad things happen to wonderful people. And that's what happened this time. So I'll share that with you. So hang tight. Okay, the next question. This one is the last one actually that we're going to ask. And this is at the 29:10 mark. This one is from Hatham. And Hatham says, I got an ITA the last round while preparing my papers. A friend told me that my wife's ECA is wrong, and the case officer might omit her total educational points. Okay, I don't know what that is. Educational credential assessments are issued by the agencies, and if they've issued them, then you can trust that they're going to be correct. My wife is a general practitioner, physician. She is a 2-year applicant. I was told She is the 2-year applicant. Not quite sure what that means, but she's a physician anyways. I was told before creating my EE profile that it is okay for a physician if she is the, oh, I see. Sorry, I misread this. She is the accompanying spouse. So she's the secondary applicant. So Hatham is the primary. Okay. And so was told before creating the EE profile that it's okay for a physician if she is the secondary applicant to do her ECA by West, not MCC. She's not claiming work experience points, and her ECA by West stated first professional degree in medicine. Will the case officer accept her ECA done by West as master's equal to professional degree, noting that she is the secondary applicant? Hatham, this is an awesome question. It is so good because I can guarantee that if you did a search of the internet, some people may even say that the ECA from Wes is accepted and that that the person is awarded points. So that may very well have happened in the past, but I can tell you that based on the policy and instructions of IRCC, your spouse absolutely does need to obtain an MCC educational credential evaluation. So that's a Medical Council of Canada. They are the ones that are allocated to give those points for professionals and to assess professional credentials. So ultimately, I can't say for you 100% what an officer would do. They have discretion, but from a policy standpoint, MCC is designed to assess the credentials of physicians. And whenever I do international medical graduates who are working in Canada, and I do a lot of them, we always, without failure, get the MCC. And it doesn't take long. It's actually pretty quick once you've got everything organized and ready for them. But in your case, yeah, I wouldn't take the chance. And so if the ECA is not correct, what are your options? Well, you go quickly and you get your MCC, and then you try to do a case-specific inquiry and upload it. They may very well not give you points for your spouse's education because they don't have to. And as I shift here to the explanation of what happened bad just recently, and I really, it sucks sharing this, but I want you guys to understand this world of express entry. They are ruthless. They do not care. They will not give you a second chance. If they do, it's a miracle. If you're fortunate and you get an officer, consider yourself so lucky because they are merciless. They simply do not care about you. And if you do not meet the exacting perfected standard that they expect of you, do not be surprised if they shatter your dreams and kick your application back. So in your case, Hatham, if you need your spouse's, those 10 points that are being attributed to her, and if you're not, if those points are being disqualified, then that basically because of her losing those points, you fall below the level in which you needed originally to get your ITA. It's impossible. It's possible it could unravel your whole application. But understand that there is an 100%, like there's a significant amount of evidence to suggest that in this case, your WES evaluation of your spouse's credentials may not work. So govern yourself accordingly, my friend. If you want to book a consult, we can talk about this. We can strategize because I don't know the impact of this in your life. I don't know how this would impact negatively on your whole application, and I really can't address it now. But Hatham, if you want to reach out and book a consultation, some of you guys that are tuning in, if you can just provide the link in the comment section to my my consultation page, then Hatham can track it down and find it. All right. And I'll also on the YouTube channel, and after this video is over, I will post a link to how you can hire me for a consultation. All right, guys, you guys are awesome. Like these questions are phenomenal. They are so good. And you can search the internet high and low, and this collection of just awesome content that I'm able to produce is thanks to you guys sending me these awesome questions. All right, now is the time, guys. Now is the time to go forward and answer the questions that have been posted. All right, so what I'll do right now is I will take right off the bat here. It's so awesome. We always have really good people who connect in and post. And my favorite part with these individuals is when I can go in and actually block them when they post things that are that are not appropriate at all within our group. So I'm super, super delighted to see that disappear. So, all right, going forward now, you can post your comments and then I will answer them. So, all right, here we go. So this question is Arena. And Arena says, hi, Mark, I was traveling to Russia and I've been late to the airport and border policies do not let me fly as my visa finished at midnight of that day. My flight was at 2:45, but my visa finished at 2400 hours. So I overstayed 2 hours, 45 minutes actually. Accordingly, police forwarded me to immigration office in order to pay fines and to get documents to exit the country. Due to the weekend and the national holiday in Russia, I needed to stay 10 days to solve this issue. By the decision of the immigration office, I paid my fines and was ordered to leave the country without deportation by myself. Will it have any influence on decision making of issuing visa after the ITA? There are no additional stamps, deportation marks on my passport. By the way, I'm not the primary applicant. No, you do not need to worry about this at all, Irina, but you are going to fully disclose it in your statutory declaration questions. You're going to indicate this. You're going to indicate that you had your visa was refused or it expired and you overstayed. You're just going to indicate it, but it will not negatively impact on your application. So I want you guys to stop stressing over these things. Unless there was something that amounted to criminality, you are totally fine. You do not need to panic. You do not need to, you don't need to stress, okay? So I'm just going to put here overstay as I'm marking this down, and I'm going to try to actually track more of these questions that I answer. But you're fine, Irina. Okay. Next question is Vindu, and Vindu says, for the federal skilled worker, if claiming 3 years after 2 years continuous employment, does the other year being claimed have to be consecutive, or it can be in pieces over a 24-month period, totals to 1850? Vindu, once you've met the minimum entry criteria for the federal skilled worker program, which is 1 year of continuous skilled work experience, then if that 1 year is enough to meet the minimum entry criteria for the federal skilled worker program, then you can include work history in whatever blocks and pieces you want. Basically, as long as it's within the last 10 years. So in your situation, when you're looking at the 2 years that you've completed, well, I'm assuming that's enough probably alone to meet the federal skilled worker eligibility. And then if you have that additional year that is broken down essentially in part-time work over the full, amount of time that you need to meet the minimum 1 year, then understand it's totally fine. You can do that. It doesn't even need to be in the same NOC. But remember, for the purposes of the federal skilled worker program eligibility, that continuous full-time employment needs to be actually continuous. So if you're trying to meet the 67-point threshold in the 100-point selection criteria, only work history that is continuous in the same NOC can be counted. But if you only need 1 year, then for the comprehensive ranking system assessment, you can then include work in whatever fashion you want. Okay, great question, Vindu. Okay, next question is, and this is kind of tricky trying to keep track of this. Work experience. It's actually probably a little bit more disruptive. I think I'm going to stop doing that. I wish I could, guys, but these individual questions that are being asked by a comment, it's just too hard for me to track it on my own. If anyone out there is super kind and wants to be supportive and help me, that can actually make a note and take notes, I may just be willing to do a free consult or something for someone who is willing to step up and help me just to make these videos even better, because there's a ton of content in here that people ask me just live that I'd love to timestamp so that people can search it easier, but it's just too hard for me to do that when I'm answering the live questions. So anyone wants to take that challenge, I may just give you a free little 15-minute consultation with me. Okay, but we'll talk about that later. All right? Okay. So anyone who wants to do that, they can just post me, post in the comments, or just keep track. And so basically when I start a new question, I want you to keep track of what the question was and then put a timestamp when it was answered in the feed. Okay. All right. If nobody wants to do that, that's okay too. Okay. Nisha says, I am the main applicant and I have 3 siblings in Canada. All of them have permanent residence or citizenship. So for uploading documents post ITA, do I need to upload documents of all 3 siblings or just one sibling proof? Address, relation, or PR proof is sufficient enough? Great question, Nisha. What happens is you will have a portal that will open up because you say you have a sibling. When the time comes and you get to your personalized document checklist, there will be sections where you upload that information to prove a sibling in Canada. You only need to prove one. So you only need to upload documentation for that one sibling that you are using to support those extra 15 points that you're getting under the Express Entry Comprehensive Ranking System. Okay, so great question, Nisha. Okay, next question is Aziz. And let's see here. Aziz says, in my document upload section, post ITA, they've asked me to upload proof of PR, citizenship of sibling, family member proof of status. Why are they asking me for same document twice? Have I did something wrong? No, this happens all the time, guys. So just duplicate it. If you need to duplicate it, then upload the same thing twice. In fact, sometimes I'll get reference letters from clients where they have different jobs for the same company, and the company puts both of those job descriptions within the same letter. Well, I just upload the same letter twice. And one thing that I didn't actually get to, which maybe I'll just stop right now and talk to you guys about, I've had other clients that have given me police clearances all bundled together. And in some cases, those police clearances were pretty large in size. And in those circumstances, I've got a choice. I can try to reduce the size to make it fit, but sometimes it doesn't. And you'll notice, well, those of you who've been practicing immigration as a lawyer, or those who have filed applications for other people, hopefully legally as consultants, will note that the document checklist has changed a lot. Over time, it's constantly changing. There was a time when you bundled all of your police clearances together and uploaded them into the same spot. Then other times, each police clearance was broken down into a separate section where you uploaded that document into each individual section. Well, sometimes when I get documents from clients that are all bundled together, I have to unbundle them in order to make them fit and then upload them into the sections. Well, I have boasted and expressed how awesome I am and that I never get applications refused because our attention to detail is so minute, is so great, and I've held ourselves out in our office as being virtually perfect. Well, today, guys, I want to share with you that that is not the case. And in fact, one of my dear, dear clients who has been so supportive, so wonderful, engaged us to help file her application because it was really time sensitive. And she had sent all of her police clearances all bundled together. But unfortunately, in the process of us unbundling them and uploading them individually into the separate sections, one of my staff members, who's actually not working with our office anymore for a number of reasons, when she uploaded them, she had to print them off and then rescan them. And in the process of rescanning, one police clearance for one country was scanned in black and white versus color. So those of you who, and I'll finish this off in a second, but that is the difference, okay? If you're submitting police clearances, the copy must be a color scanned copy. Take it seriously. Take it very seriously, folks, because just this past weekend, we got the application returned. And it was absolutely devastating. At first, I thought there must be some mistake. I looked, I saw the documents, I reviewed what we had, and almost all of the documents were all in color except one police certificate that accidentally got uploaded as a black and white copy, and I did not catch it. Now, this client has been absolutely unbelievable in her her forgiveness, in her understanding. The moment I got it, I immediately refiled the profile to get it right back into the queue. And in her case, she's got really high comprehensive ranking system, so she will get drawn on the very next draw. But even in our office, where we had virtually a perfect track record, subject to the very, very early days when there was just misunderstanding as to what we truly needed to include, we've never had an issue. But it happened to us. And what I want you guys to understand is it doesn't matter how good you think you are. It doesn't matter how careful you are. Never, ever, ever submit your application unless you've had someone else review it, had someone else go through it carefully. And I'll be honest, just because of this one experience, I'm actually stepping back and I'm looking at our whole process again to see how this could have happened, how we could have prevented it. And in fairness, if the person who's doing it isn't paying attention and doesn't care about your application as much as you do, then there's a good chance that mistakes are going to happen, even though you give that representative everything that everything exactly how it's supposed to be uploaded. Mistakes can happen. And so whatever you do, do not submit your own application without having someone go through it for you, because you just won't see the mistakes that you make. And that's one of the things that I pride ourselves in with our office, is when we are helping our clients, I go through everything meticulously, forensically. And often when I'm doing, and now I'm starting to do way more reviews because it's just more affordable for people. So rather than hiring us and paying us $5,000, which many people do, some people choose to pay me $2,500 Canadian. And then I go through and review their whole application with them via Skype in a screen share. And we go through every single section. But one of the challenges with the document checklist, and this is something I've brought up and we've discussed with immigration in Ottawa, you cannot click on it to see and look at the document that you've uploaded. And why is this a problem? Well, what if you uploaded the wrong one? And so I have in my course, I have very specific guidelines on how to avoid making mistakes, how to structure your documents in your folder so that when you upload them, you can refer back and know exactly what's in your portal and which document you uploaded. And that's all a part of the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to doing it yourself. But understand, even in my office, we made a mistake, and Express Entry is disastrous. If this client had been drawn at, say, 439 and never did it ever drop back again to 439, can you imagine what that would mean? And so I want you guys to appreciate how much stress, at least people who care like me, how much stress the whole process puts people under. You pay me to take away your stress so that you don't have to be stressed. And that's something that I take great, great pride in, and my staff do here in the office. But the reality is, going forward, my advice without any reservation is to please never, ever submit your application without having someone else look at it. Now, obviously, if the person who's looking at it doesn't know what to look for, it kind of defeats the purpose. But you need to hire someone that you can trust, or use someone, because the consequences are massive. All right, so there's the disclosure, guys. Mark and his office, we are not perfect. We make mistakes. But one thing this client knows, and this person that I truly care about, is that when we make a mistake, I own it, and I take full responsibility for it, and I do everything in my power to correct it. And this is all encompassed within the same fee that this person paid. So if we make a mistake, I do everything in my power to fix it. All right, enough of the of the disclosing of how imperfect I am. Let's continue forward with some more comments. Okay, so I think we covered off the proof of sibling. So okay, yeah, we did cover off Aziz's question here. Mauricia put the link. Thank you, Mauricia, to book a consult with me. All right, now I'll skip through everybody who's submitted their question multiple times. Ernest says, thank you so much. You're very welcome, Ernest. Amika says, if it took 5 years of work experience to qualify under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, do you have to provide reference letters for them all under the Express Entry Program, despite the fact that you just need 3 years for maximum points? The reality is, you said here that you need 5 years of work experience to qualify under the Federal Skilled Worker Program. If that's the case, then you need to provide those reference letters to support all of those 5 years, even if the comprehensive ranking system only is giving you points under that assessment for work history. So, and even if that work history is maxes out at 3 years, the answer, Amika, is absolutely yes, you do need to prove it. Okay, good question. All right, Irina says thank you. You're very welcome, Irina. Okay, Senora says thank you as well. All right, I'm just looking here. Okay, Yahia says, I've made a tourist visa to search for a job in an African country. During this visa, I got the contract and formally started the job and started having the salary. But after getting the contract, I had to travel to my country to change the visa to working visa and the travel back to work. My salary started monthly with the contract. Any problems with the Federal Skilled Worker Program? Well, understand that you have to prove your work experience. And so ultimately, it comes in your reference letter. And aside from the fact of whether you were working without authorization or not, the reality is the onus is on you to prove it. And so whatever your reference letter states, you just have to meet those basic requirements. And I'll just take a second here. I'll share my screen again with you guys. And I will pull up this and we'll go back to work history. And so when you're claiming work experience, this is what's in your reference letter. Job title, duties and responsibilities, job status, dates worked for the company, number of work hours per week, and the annual salary plus benefits. So that is the key, guys. And for your situation right here, you need to show that you were actually paid. And if you meet all of these requirements, then you're fine. There isn't a big issue. All right. Great question. Okay, let's continue forward. Let's see here. See where I left off. Yahia says, yes, I can do that. Free consultation and help you, sir. I'm ready. Okay, well then just keep tracking of it for me, Yahia. Excuse me. I am a little bit under the weather today. Okay. And today I didn't have time for any lunch. All right, let's keep going forward here. Okay, let's see. Okay, here we go. Now we're back on track. Okay, Nasmus says, I'm currently studying in Canada. Can my research assistant, teaching assistant work at university be counted towards the federal skilled worker job? Okay, Nasmus, this depends. Okay, and this is where there's tremendous confusion. And you'll see here, let me see if I can actually find it before I shift the thing. Let's see if I can find this help one. Here we go. Awesome. Okay, so this is one time where this question has come up so frequently, and I will just pull it up and I'll share my screen. Okay, so look at what it says here. Can I count my work my work as a teaching assistant toward my work experience requirements? And if you look here, it says here, you may be able to count your experience as a teaching research lab assistant. So that's NOC 412 toward the work experience requirement, depending on the eligibility criteria of the programs. So if after submitting your profile, you're invited to apply, you must show that you did the job as described. Great, meaning that you did all the essential duties and the main duties. If you do not show that experience meets the NOC, your application will be refused. Okay, well, that goes without saying. But here's the thing here. To be considered under CEC, you cannot count work experience you gained while enrolled as a full-time student. So your work experience has to be gained while on a valid work permit, such as a postgrad. Okay, and then of course the 1,560 hours, at least 1 year in the 3 years before you submit. Here's the other thing. To be considered under the federal skilled worker program, your work experience must have been full-time or the equivalent of part-time hours, worked continuously, and paid for at least 1 year in the same occupation. So you can see here that it suggests that yes, you can claim it. But remember, within the process, you can't claim the Canadian work experience for the Canadian experience class if it was gained while you were studying. So in every case, when you are on a postgrad work permit, then yes, it will work. But you can see the vagueness of this. So ultimately, it does suggest that you could potentially go through the skilled worker program if you were on a study permit working. But I can tell you that it's not clear, and that's a great question. And you didn't indicate whether you were actually on your study permit or whether you actually had a work permit. So we know work permit, 100% you're fine. Study permit, this is one of those areas, guys. Okay, great question though. That was awesome. Okay, next one on the hit list here. Boy, and everybody's posting really quick, so it's hard for me to stay on top of this. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Vindu says, thank you. You're welcome, Vindu. Seifel says, I'm new here from Kenya. My question, and I just remember adding you, Seifel, to the group. Welcome. My question, I'm an aircraft engineer licensed in Kenya. It is regulated in Canada, and it is impossible for anyone to offer me a job from Canada without a Canadian license, and I can't get it while I'm in Kenya. It also doesn't seem popular with PNPs, unless maybe I've missed it somewhere. What would be my options to increase my CRS score? Okay, so this is one of the things that involves an actual consultation, a Seifel, because I can't tell you exactly what's going to work for you because every single person is different. You know, you can go through the same things that say, okay, well, if you don't have a job offer or that's not possible, then can you go to school, increase your education? Once you study in Canada, then you can get a postgrad work permit and work and get Canadian work experience. But there's so many different factors. If you're already 40 years old, well, you're losing 10 points every year. And if you're going through the process of applying for a study permit, there's no guarantee that's going to be approved. If it is approved, then you've got a long haul to potentially be able to qualify. And one thing I'm telling a lot of people lately is that understand the number of students in Canada has grown from 250,000 to almost, well, we probably are crossed over 500,000. And many of them are express entry candidates who are ahead of you, who are going through the process, who will complete their studies, get their points, 15 or 30 points for their education, who will then get a postgrad, will get 35 points for 1 year of skilled work experience, who will apply under the Canadian experience class, who may even work longer, who will drive the score up for the rounds of invitations. So that's something, Seifel, that I usually do via a paid consultation. I go through everything and tell you what your options are, whether you have a chance, because sometimes the best advice you can get is when someone you trust tells you, you don't have a chance. Don't waste your money. Consider a different country. And that value can be as, that information can be as valuable as anything else, because then you can take those resources that you would have spent on these useless agents and overseas consultants who are just all about stealing your money, essentially. And you can use that for your own family and for your own benefit to further your life, because you know that your chances of immigrating are virtually non-existent. Okay. All right. Great question, Seifel. Okay, Travonia says, can an international student studying in Canada apply for a PR via express entry? Their spouse will be the primary applicant. Of course, absolutely, Travonia. Yaya says, okay, yes, I can do that. Summit says, work experience, March 29th, 2010 to January 7th, 2013. How much is it counted as? And rest of the work experience can be piece of months with prices. Can I claim it as 3 years plus experience? Summit, this is actually something I'm going to need a whole lot more information in order to be able to answer for you. This calculation depends on so many factors, including how many hours worked, all those things that we look at in terms of what constitutes qualifying foreign work experience. So Summit, you need to book a consult for me to go through that with you. Nisha says, thank you so much. You're welcome, Nisha. Ibrahim says, "Hi, Mark. My wife and I applied for PR on April the 21st, 2018. We made a mistake with our knock. Instead of 2171, they put 2173, which happens all the time. We applied under CEC. We've been living in Canada for the past 4 years. We got the GCMS last month and it's under review. It says under review required. We completed 6 months on October the 21st, 2018. Please help. We are really worried." Ibrahim, you need to book a consult so we can look at everything in detail and I can advise you on what the options are and what you need to do. Okay? Because like I said, guys, lots of these questions I can answer, but specific ones like that, I would never dare to, because those questions are requiring specific legal advice. And it's not something that I would ever do without knowing the full story, that your full history. Okay. So just book that, click on that consult link that was posted and we can reach out and connect. Okay. Christian says, "Hi, I'm from Lima, Peru. I'm about to create my profile and I want to know this. Most of my bank savings are in Peruvian money. I want to convert all of my Peruvian money in US dollars due to the dollars getting stronger each day. I have my savings more than 6 months already. I'm not sure if it could be affected at this point." No, Christian, whether you have it in Peruvian and you're converting it to Canadian for the purposes of your application, or whether you actually change the money over to US dollars, as long as it meets that proof of income, that minimum threshold amount that you need, then you're just fine. Okay, good question. Aziz says, "Hello, Mark. Thank you for all the help you provide." You're welcome, my friend. Nisha says, "In my document checklist, there is no option to upload IELTS or WEST letters. Is that okay?" Yeah, that happens. They're not specifically asked for, but I'll let you in on a little secret. I include them anyways. So the IELTS, I will often include that in my representative portal or the letter of explanation portal. And the WEST, I'll almost always just include that with the educational documents. I know it's not required and many people don't include it, because you're entering in the information actually into your profile or into your eAPR. That's why they ask for when the document was, when your IELTS was issued, when it expired, those kinds of things, and the actual numbers, the document number, because they have the ability to go in and access that information directly. But I always include it anyways, just to make sure. Great question. Visha says, "Should your letter of explanation be detailed or to the point?" Okay, well, ultimately, you're going to take whatever time you need to explain your situation. I always like to be precise and to the point. I don't like to waste officers' time with information they don't need. But with that being said, I will take as much time as I need to explain properly and fully what I need them to understand to remove any doubt. So that's a question that's really open-ended, Visha. But I am thorough if I need to be. Okay. Oladoja says, "Thank you. You're welcome." Pavasha says, "What if someone is paid in cash? How do we justify that if we were not getting out salary in a bank account?" Pavasha, that's probably one of the questions I've answered more than anyone else in these EE Live Q&As. The reality is, when it comes to cash, well, you have an obligation to prove that you were paid. So were you issued pay stubs? Did you file taxes for that money? Do you have how was your reference letter? Does it confirm how much you were paid? Because understand, in the reference letter alone, it's confirming how much you were paid, where the position you worked in, how long you worked. And then in the document checklist, it often says include pay stubs if available. So it doesn't say you have to provide your bank statements or anything like that. And in many cases, people are not required to provide those pay stubs. And if they don't include them, it's not the end of the world. But in your situation with cash, then you have to look to other sources of information that come from third parties that are trustworthy. That's why I bring up, did you get pay stubs? Do you file taxes? Do you have, annual returns like we have in Canada that explain how much employment income you've claimed? That really helps a lot. Layla says, "Hi, Mark." Hi, Layla. Ernest says, "Please send me your number. I'm going to be directing friends to you." Ernest, I really appreciate that. Like, that's the thing that and then Mauricia is so awesome. She's already responded and replied. I can't tell you guys how much it means that you refer people to me. I'm in little old Lethbridge, Alberta here. I knew coming down to Lethbridge that I wouldn't have this overflowing number of people here in my community that needed immigration services. If I really wanted to be in a location where there was lots of immigration, I would have either stayed in Calgary or moved to Vancouver or Toronto or Montreal, the large centers. But Lethbridge is about 100,000 people, and it's kind of an agricultural based community. We've got universities here, we've got food processing, we've got lots of those things, but it's not the hotbed of immigration. And so that's why I was forced, if I wanted to focus my practice on immigration, to do things creatively, to reach out to people, to do these kinds of things. And the interesting part is I get unbelievable satisfaction from doing this. Why do I do this every single week at noon? Because I love it. I love helping you. I love answering your questions. And then in return, when you give, I believe in the philosophy of givers gain. And so when I give, I know that people are going to appreciate it and want to give back and to help me. And so when people like you, Ernest, who says, I'm going to direct friends to you, like that just means a ton to me. It means so much. And I really appreciate it. And so thank you. All right, let's see what's next here. So I kind of jumped down a little bit. Sumati says, and I'm going to end off here, guys. So I'm going to take a snapshot and I'm going to end with Fazila's, what does she say? Fazila, I've been referring many of my friends and family to you and your group. I really appreciate that once again. Okay, so we'll end with Palvasha's comment. So he'll be the last one, okay? So I'm going to go back and then we'll end with Palvasha's comment. Okay, so, Sumati says, Mark, you help in SIMP. I recently received ADR and need assistance for same. Sumati, I do. So the occupation in demand that comes through the expression of interest with the SIMP, yes, I do. And so we've recently filed applications for clients and I can provide assistance to you. So you just need to reach out and then we can talk about it. Some things, guys, I can fix. Some things I can't. And if they're asking for documentation or things that you don't have, or you've submitted something that was incorrect, and now you're faced with a conflict or a conflicting piece of information, some things we can't always fix, but I can sure try and I'd sure be willing to help Sumati. Okay, Layla says, Mark, I am on last semester of my Master of Science degree and 3 years experience as a QHSE specialist. Should I appear in IELTS now, or I need to complete my master's first? If me and my husband both want to apply for PR, and then he should also need to appear in IELTS. Yeah, Layla, always get your maximum education. Now, with that being said, if you've written your IELTS and you have already obtained an educational credential assessment for your other, maybe your degree, maybe you have 2 or more already before your master's, you need to do an assessment, because if you already have enough points to get drawn, and right now 440 is the minimum, and it may not drop down even to 440 again, but this year that was the lowest level. You might qualify right now, and then in that case you could proceed forward. But normally you would want to wait until you actually get your master's, and then absolutely your spouse, if they're accompanying, they must get their IELTS scores, because 20 of your points are going to be attributed to them, and also get an ECA for them as well. Because that right there is 30 points, 20 for language, 10 for the ECA, the education. And I'm presuming that you're not in Canada, but if you were in Canada, then your spouse would also be able to demonstrate their Canadian work experience. All right. Fazila says, hey, Mark, how are you doing? I'm doing okay, Fazila. It's been, as you can see, I'm super happy that my my braces are off. That's awesome. But I'm pretty exhausted. I'm pretty tired. I've had a lot of late nights, but you guys give me the strength to keep going forward. So thank you. Yaya says, I love Canada. Great. I'm glad you do. Okay. And then Fazila says, I want to thank you. Oh, Fazila, I didn't realize this. I want to thank you. I got my PR just because of the hard work you do by making these videos. Thank you so much for answering our questions and making it the PR path easy for us. Oh, Fazila, that means so much to me. And, Fazila was never a client of mine. She had lots of challenges, lots of struggles. And we did everything that we could to try to answer questions and help throughout the process. And she made it through. But for you to provide, take the time to tune in and listen even after getting your PR and sharing that really means a lot to me. And I really, really, really appreciate it. So thank you. Travonia says, thank you, Mark. You're very welcome. Seifel says, I'm 33 years old, by the way. Awesome, Seifel. Okay, and then the last question here is Palvasha, and we will end with this one. Hello, Mark. One of my friends received an ADR for an updated bank statement. He is a single applicant. At the time of his submission of his application, his proof of funds was $13,000, but now his money is around $11,500. What should he do? Should he submit bank statement as it is, or should he upgrade his account and send? Please, it was a gift deed. You have to understand this can constitute a refusal, and ultimately that money needs to be put back into the account immediately, and that's the only hope of saving this, Palvasha, because ultimately the obligation is that person maintains that money in their account. So I recommend immediately that it get replenished so that it's back up to the 13,000 minimum. Well, the amount that's required for a single applicant. Because if they do not and they provide the statement showing it's under, it's entirely possible that they would refuse the entire application. So there you go. Thanks, guys. I appreciate everybody tuning in. We had a really, really awesome group of people today, and the questions were phenomenal. This was one of the best EE Live Q&As that I've done, and it's not just because I'm just saying that. Like, I really mean it. The questions were really good, really challenging. And I had an opportunity to share with all of you guys the answers that I had available. And I'm going to take one of these questions back and try to do a little bit more research. Also, I wanted to let all of you guys know that going forward with this group, I intend to keep doing these. I intend to find ways to get the information out to people in a way that they can better digest it, that they can better use it. So when I get help from you guys to help timestamp things, that really, really is helpful. It really means a lot. And then I can just make it better for everyone else. Ultimately, there's lots going on in my office right now, but this is something that I love. And another thing I want to express appreciation is to all of the people that have gone out of their way, and I'm not even sure if I have it. Here it is. Let's stick it up here. That have purchased a subscription to this little guide, which is awesome. I put my heart and soul into it, guys. All of the information, the question that you guys ask, I build it out and I create it within this guide. And I'm in the process right now of rolling it out to the world. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing is setting up an affiliate program. So people that have gone through, used the guide, and then want to share it with their friends. An affiliate is basically someone who then receives a portion of what that friend or referral pays as a way of saying thank you for sharing it with other people. And so that's not something that I can do with my law firm or my immigration practice. And so I want to thank Fazila and all you wonderful people out there, Ernest, who have shared and referred people back to me. That really, really means a lot. As a lawyer, I can't pay finder's fees. That breaches my code of professional conduct. But with the guide, it's different. And so for people who refer, if you reach out to me, I will start setting up my affiliate program now where people can get credit and actually be paid to help me market it. And the people who have used it and have recognized the value and how it's helped them to become permanent residents, well, you guys are the best ones of all to fill in and to be affiliates of the course. So it's growing, it's expanding, it's improving every day, and I absolutely love it. And I know that anyone who wants to figure things out on their own but can't necessarily afford to hire someone, or I'll tell you guys, even if you subscribed for 1 month at $97 US, you could go in, you could learn what you needed to learn. And if you just felt the only way you can do it is by hiring a local agent in your country, because either my fees are too expensive or you can't get your money out of your country, then the guide will at least prepare you to be able to choose the right agent, to be able to choose the person that is that knows, that can actually help you, because you will have a solid foundation to be able to catch it or to understand if they're trying to trick you or if they're trying to tell you that you qualify when you really don't. So there's tremendous value no matter what stage of the process you're at. And right now, for people that are watching these videos, I still do offer 50% off my lifetime access. I pulled it down from my outward advertising because it is special. It is something that I only want to open up periodically. But people who are watching this live video and say, hey, Mark, I would love to purchase it, then you can get it for $248.50, 50% off, if you send me a private message or an email to mholthy@stringham.ca. And I want to let everybody else know out there that if you want your question answered, all you have to do is send an email to mholthy@stringham.ca and put EE Live Q&A in your subject line, and you could just get your question answered. This is Mark Holthy, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, saying, see you later, wishing you all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call express entry. Take care, everyone.